Hello, good morning. Happy Saturday. Oh, I finally got time to record this week's episode. I know I'm a day late, and I'm quite a few days late for my early access, but I am going to upload this into Patreon as well as Spotify because I know that my Patreon people have been waiting for this week's early access. I do need to get the first September bonus episode up too. So I need to get going on that. I have just been behind all week. Every day I had something going on. Every day besides work. So I am drinking Java Mama Frank's Finest. Frank's Finest is Frankenstein, and it is a fall or Halloween type of coffee. It is dark chocolate, and it is so good. I mean, it is good. It is one of my favorites. And it should be coming back this month. It was here in July, and they usually bring it back in October. So I'm really hoping it comes back because I'm almost out. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Okay. Java Mama's air roasted. Green and clean, better for your gut. I will leave the link in the show notes. I've been wanting to bring you this case ever since I heard about it. I actually was contacted by the producer of Murder in the Heartland back December of last year about this case because I do cases in Illinois, and I had not heard about this one. And then I was waiting for it to come on Murder in the Heartland, and it did. And this was in May. It aired. And it was in the latest season. I think it's season 9. Money is the Motive was the name of it, I think. And this case is in Casey, Illinois, which is a very small town. It's a pretty neat town from what I've learned about it. And I was always going to go there since, I heard about it, but I never did because this town is got a lot of Guinness Book the largest wind chime, world's largest wind chime, largest rocking chair. I can't remember what all they said it has, but it has all that cool stuff. So if you're ever down by Casey, Illinois, stop in and look at what they have. I mean, this stuff is I think it's just all over the town. You can see it. It's south. It's almost, let me see, it's more east Illinois, almost to Indiana, I think, right around that area. I think it's southeast area. And not far from Champaign, I think. But, it's a distance, but it's more in that area of Illinois, I think. And this case, oh my gosh. So I did look online besides Murder in the Heartland. I watched that, and I did see some things online, but there's not very much online that I found. And this is just very, very sad. But this is a small town where nobody locked their doors. And so for this happening in a small town, it scared a lot of people. Gregory Scott Collins, but they called him Scott. Him and his German Shepherd, Gretchen, lived just in a regular house. It wasn't anything big. He was an iron worker, but I'm not sure if he's retired, but he was an iron worker. He collected a lot of coins and a lot of knives. He had a car, truck, and a motorcycle, and it sounded to me like he was very good with his money. Like he saved a lot. Now, on January 15th, 2014, his house was on fire. And I never did find out who called 911, but they were able to get the fire out. The house was still standing, but it looked pretty burned. And I'm going to have the photos in the photo dump on Instagram and Facebook and Patreon. So the house was still standing, and they found Scott Collins dead in his home. He had 28 stab wounds And he wore a sheath on his side, and there was a knife in it, but that knife was not there. His dog, Gretchen, the German Shepherd, was unfortunately also stabbed. His brother Lonnie, they were total opposites, and there was times when they would like really get into I don't know if they would actually get into fights, but Scott was a talker to where Lonnie wasn't, and Scott was outgoing. He talked. He like had a lot of girlfriends, and Lonnie called him to borrow some money the night before the murder, and Scott declined because he said, "You never come around, only if you want money. That's the only time I see you. No." So he didn't give him the money. And Lonnie, after Scott passed, Lonnie actually inquired about Scott's money and if he had a will, if he had any life insurance, all that. And this is the day after Scott was murdered. So right away, he's a suspect. And like I said, people were so scared in this town after this happened because they didn't know who did this. So there were things that Scott left to Lonnie. So, but Lonnie had an alibi. He was at home that night in Springfield, Illinois. And Springfield, Illinois is about 2.5 hours away. There's no way he could have made it in that time, that night. I mean, I don't know what he had proven that he was home, but, so he was cleared. They checked him out. He was cleared. But at 11:30 that night of Scott's murder, Lonnie said he woke up thinking that he had a phone call from Scott. He checked his phone, checked his text. There was nothing. And it was 11:30 that night, and that actually was about the time he passed. I thought that was I was like, oh my gosh, isn't that something? And I've heard of that happening before. But I just thought that was really something. Scott's girlfriend was looked at because he had a few lady friends. And he had an ex-girlfriend and he had some other girlfriends. And there was also a guy he hung out with called TJ Duvall. And TJ had stolen from Scott. They had a falling out, and Scott was wanting his money back. And TJ was more of a tough guy, and he was Scott's friend, or Scott's friends feared that TJ would do something. But see, they were friends, and he let him borrow money, and then he wouldn't repay him. And Scott had told one of his lady friends that he was going to TJ's that night. She was just a friend, like a lady who was a friend, not like a girlfriend. And he was going to go to TJ's that night, and that was about the last time anybody had heard from him when he left to go to TJ's. So that looked really suspicious. So they picked TJ up to talk to him. And this was the FBI. And like TJ's like, what are you doing here? Like he had no idea what even happened. So he said he had no idea. He ended up being cleared because it wasn't him. And I can't remember, he must have had an alibi or something, or there was nothing tying him to the case. There were rumors of partying rumors were going all around the town that Scott was partying. He had some sex party at his night that night, or someone had broke in and taken his coins that he collected. There was an ex-girlfriend named Christy, and she got really mad that Scott broke up with her. But they were like, the way Scott was murdered, with all of these 28 stab wounds, this girl, Scott was a lot bigger than her. They just did not see her doing this. Now, he also had a neighbor, Kevin. I don't know if they talked to her. I'm pretty sure they did talk to her about it. And his neighbor, there was a lot of suspects. I mean, these people weren't actually cleared as a suspect. They were just not on the suspect list as high up. They still kept them in mind. So his neighbor, she was still, but it was not likely that it was her. And then his neighbor, Kevin Black, was also suspected, and he was into drugs. Now, Scott needed painkillers, and they thought, well, maybe Scott was buying pills from him, So he was also a suspect. And when they talked to him, they ended up, and I'm probably going to repeat myself here, but they do end up talking to him, because I know this is later in my notes, and he was buying the painkillers from Scott. And so that was one thing right there that they were looking at. And then the Casey Police Department got an anonymous letter. So here's where, and I'm trying to remember, I don't think they ever said who wrote this letter. So just to say, I've got to get a drink of Gatorade. I'm starting to sweat. Oh, I got some cold Gatorade up here. My fans make too much noise. I don't like turning those on. Okay, they got an anonymous letter. It was locally postmarked, so it was sent right there in the town, from the town. And whoever wrote it said they need to look at Tommy Messina. Okay, they never heard this name in this case, at least. This name had never come up. Tommy used to live next door to Scott, and they lived with their grandfather who was dying. And I think I read that he lived with his grandfather since he was 5, him and his brother. And Scott felt bad for him because, they're living with his grandfather who's dying, and they didn't have anything, the house was not in good condition. I think they said, I don't know if they said it was going to be condemned, I don't know, or going to be, or it was condemned and going to be, I don't know. I never did find out what happened to the house, but it was just not in good living conditions at all. So he would give him $20 once in a while, Scott would, out of the kindness of his heart, because that's just the person he was. And he would give Tommy and his brother some money, and they could go get whatever candy, whatever they're going to do with it, and buy himself something, buy himself some food, or something like that. Tommy had stolen and burglarized homes when he got older, and he had actually been to juvenile prison, but he'd always get out because he was not violent. He would just break in and steal. People had seen him over at Scott's house, like on his porch, talking to him, and rumors spread that they were a couple. But his friends said, no, there's no way that they would be a couple, because Scott was all about the women. I mean, he had girlfriends. There was just no way. So Tommy lived, like I said, I knew I was going to repeat this. He lived at his grandfather's house since he was about 5 years old, since he was a kid. I have no idea why they didn't live with their mom, but they questioned Tommy. They brought him in, questioned him. He said he talked to Scott once in a while, and that was about it. He was not close to him. Like I said, he'd never had a violent history. They didn't really, they still kept him on the radar, but he said that no, he only talked to him once in a while. So back to Kevin Black, the neighbor, who was selling Scott prescription meds. They questioned him. He said he never heard anything that night or saw anything that night. And he was living right next door. Well, I guess if there was no gunshot, a gunshot you would hear. But for this, no, I can understand that unless if he was sleeping, Well, 6 weeks later, police got a phone call about a stolen vehicle in Toledo, Illinois. I was going to look up Toledo. I always do this, and I completely forgot to look up. I did not know there was a Toledo, Illinois, and I'm not even sure exactly where it is, and that's what I was going to look up, because the night of Scott's murder, the night that Scott was killed, they got a phone call about a stolen truck from Casey, Illinois, that crashed in Toledo, Illinois. So now they're thinking, well, wait a minute, there's a stolen vehicle in Toledo, Illinois? Okay, this could be a connection. Well, they thought this guy whose truck was stolen, the guy who had the truck stolen in Toledo, not in Casey. So I'm trying to explain it so it's not confusing. The guy who had the truck stolen, the call that they just got. So the guy who the truck belonged to, he hadn't been out in his garage in a while. It's not attached, it's separate. And the cops came and, trying to do the investigation on his truck. They went out to the garage and they found all these cigarette butts on the floor of the garage. And it's like, these shouldn't be here. And so they bagged all that up. And they come to the conclusion that whoever stole the truck was hiding out in this garage over a period of time. Not the full 6 weeks, but over, because at first I'm like, the full 6 weeks this guy was in this guy's garage. But no, it was just some period of time he was hiding out in the garage. The truck was found in a parking lot close to, guess where the parking lot was? Close to Tommy Messina's grandmother. Now, Tommy Messina was known as a car thief who would drop off the vehicles in other places. So they go to the grandmother's house. And she was very welcoming, very nice. I mean, the guy, the police officer said that when he walked in, you could just smell cookies baking. And he actually ate a cookie while he was there. And very welcoming in, very nice lady. And she said she had not seen Tommy in a couple of years. But she said that his sister lived in Joliet, Illinois. And Joliet is kind of close up by Chicago. So that's why I was going to look up Toledo, Illinois to see if it was close. And if I look it up, I'll make a note of it in the show notes or in my social media posts, because I wasn't sure the distance between them. Well, she said his sister lived up in Joliet, Illinois, so he might be there. So they go to Joliet. Joliet. Is it really? I say Joliet, but it's Joliet. And she had nothing to tell them. She's like, no. She's like, his mom. She said, I know he tried to get help from his mom. His mom's name is Mary Blickham, their mom. And he had tried to go there to get help from her. So they went to her place, also in Joliet. She said his grandma took him to Joliet, is what the mother told him. So she's saying the grandma brought him to Joliet because he knew he was in trouble, that something had happened. And basically, she said he killed someone. This is what the mother told him. That the grandmother knew, or must have told the grandmother he killed someone, and the grandmother brought him to Joliet. That's why I was wanting to kind of find out the distance between those two towns. Well, they found and arrested Tommy Messina and questioned him about Scott Collins. He denied everything. So, they told him that they talked to his mom, and she told them that he killed someone and the dog and set the guy's house on fire. And as he drove away, he watched the flames in his rearview mirror. They tell him Grandma may go to jail for lying because she lied to them. She was 70 years old, and it's not good for a 70-year-old lady to be in prison. This is what they're telling him, which could have very well happened because she lied. And then he started crying. And I mean tears crying. He had his head down. He was crying. And this is where he said he didn't mean to kill Scott Collins on purpose. He confessed that he stabbed Gretchen as she was trying to protect Scott. I never found out who was first. First, I thought they said that he killed the dog first, because I'm sure the dog was definitely protecting Scott, which is going to come in here in a little bit. Tommy was on meth, he said, and he went there, got in the house and stole some stuff. I don't know if Scott was home. I'm thinking he was, because Scott got into it with him. And Scott got into it with him because he was in his house stealing stuff. While Tommy Messina ended up killing 28 stab wounds. Now, this was to his abdomen, and his throat was cut. So this is why they thought it was someone that he was or like an ex-girlfriend or someone that he knew, because this was like almost overkill. But I know Tommy's a young guy, but it was like overkill. I don't know if he was trying to make sure it was dead, if he was up high on meth. I don't know. But he killed him and burned the house. But of course it was distinguished. But Gretchen became the hero in this, because she had DNA on her teeth. Because like I said, she tried to protect her dad. He was a dog daddy. He loved dogs. And she tried to protect him. Well, they had this DNA ran, but they hadn't got it back yet before Tommy Messina's confession. And then when they got it back, yep, Tommy's DNA was in her teeth. So Gretchen came through and got him. So Lonnie, the brother, wants him to die. He wants Tommy Messina to die. He did not go to any of the court proceedings because he said he couldn't trust himself. He could not trust himself to go after this kid and just kill him. So he didn't say kill him, but Tommy he struck a deal. He got 45 years for this. 45 years for going in a guy's house and killing him. 28 stab wounds and his neck cut, and killed his sweet dog, which that just kills me too. It's just so sad. 45 years for this. Now, when he gets out, I don't even know if I'm just thinking, will Scott's relatives still be around in 45 years? This happened in 2014, so it's been 10 now. But you never know what's going to happen to him. But, I'm not saying anything's going to happen. I'm just saying, they are not happy about this. And I don't blame them, especially his brother Lonnie is so not happy about this. But I wanted to talk about this case, get it out there, talk about it, and very, very interesting. And Casey, Illinois sounds like an awesome place. It just does. It sounds like, I would love to go in that area and see all this stuff that they've got in the town. And but I've never been. I think the closest I've been is Mattoon, Illinois, because that's where my cousin lives. Mattoon, or I think now she lives in a little town outside Mattoon, Illinois. But thank you so much for your support, and I'm so sorry I was a day late with this, and I'm going to try my best to get the September bonus episode out, the first one, soon. I think I know what I'm doing. I just got to take the notes and record, so I'm hoping it'll be this week. And I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful September, and by the feel of our weather, fall is just about here, because it's pretty chilly last night. I was at my husband's fish fry, and usually it's hot, and I had to get my sweatshirt. I had to go over by the fryer to keep warm, and I had to go out to the car to get my sweatshirt to put on. So, and it was still daylight. It wasn't like it was dark or anything. So, lot of breezy, and I love it. I love the breeze. I love the feel of fall coming in. It's my favorite season and my favorite time of the year. Spooky season's coming. So, I hope everybody has a wonderful week ahead, and I will see you next week with a new episode. I have not been home to watch anything new. Hulu, I did watch one thing. Hulu had a documentary about Gary Coleman and his life, and it's not very long. I didn't even watch it all at once. I watched a little bit over like a few nights, and before I went to bed, I was watching a little bit, and that's really good. If you have a chance, if you got Hulu, or not Hulu, did I say Hulu? Peacock. Sorry, Peacock has it on. And they've actually got the new interview with Scott Peterson, who I cannot stand, and I'm probably going to be gagging while I watch it. But I want to watch it. It's one of those things that I want to watch, but I hate him. I can't stand looking at him. I just can't stand him. I just hate him. But I'm probably going to watch it. I just haven't had time yet, and I'm thinking, can I stomach this? Can I stomach even looking at his face? I don't know. I'm afraid I'm going to be yelling at the TV the whole time. It's something I'm going to have to watch on my own where my husband's not home, because I can't stand him. And, oh gosh. So that's on Peacock as well. I got to get my channels straight. I got Hulu, Peacock, Netflix, Max. I just got rid of Paramount Plus because I wasn't watching it, and I had all these other channels. So I hope everybody has a wonderful week. Thank you so much. Any suggestions, please throw them my way. Please throw them my way as I try to find cases that are interesting or need to be heard, So that's all for today. Have a wonderful, wonderful week and a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next time.